3 to 4 weeks now, which is always a challenge working through this whole COVID mess that we're going through. But the upside is we get to do lots of fun tastings and one like this tonight. So I thought I'd just start by just giving you a bit of background about who I am and Patrick of Coonawarra. So we are here in Coonawarra. For those that don't know, Coonawarra is right down the bottom of South Australia. So about 4 hours south of Adelaide and about 5 hours west of Melbourne. And perfect trip along the Great Ocean Road if you're coming from Melbourne or from Adelaide. Quick trip down to Coonawarra to have a look around is always really good. It's a pretty small region down here with a really big name. So Coonawarra is pretty well known around the world for producing really good wine. And I was fortunate enough to grow up here. So my dad, his name was Patrick Tokashu. So Tokashu is our last name. Tokashu was too hard to put on a label. So Patrick of Coonawarra is what the family started the winery as. My dad was a winemaker for a lot of other different wineries around the country, mainly in the Barossa. I was born in Adelaide and then spent about 5 years in the Barossa before the family moved down to Coonawarra. My dad grew up not far from here, so Coonawarra is about half an hour from another big town called Mount Gambier, and he grew up there, and so always wanted to return to the region. Opportunity for him came up working for another winery down here called Holick Wines, which is literally just across the road behind me. And during that time, Dad purchased our house and small vineyard in Coonawarra, just down the road, and with the goal in mind to always to want to produce wines for himself and start his own brand eventually. We had a good little conversation, you know, as I was going through high school. I grew up in the wineries and the vineyard, so skateboarding around wineries and turning pumps on and off and spending or earning my pocket money in the vineyard was sort of how I grew up. So it was something I always wanted to do. And Dad and I sat down when I was sort of in high school, and he said, look, we want to look to start our own winery. I know you're interested. You know, is that something that you think we should pursue? Obviously, there's a huge investment in going out on your own, both sort of emotionally and to make all the wine and put your heart on the line to actually put a product in a bottle to sell to people. So we made that leap of faith in 1998 and opened our cellar door here in Coonawarra in 2004. So our first release of wine was a 98 Cabernet and 03 Riesling at the time. And from there, we've grown to, we own about 6 different vineyards now, both here in Coonawarra and also in Rattenbully, which is about 15 minutes north of our cellar door. So it's another wine region, but very similar characteristics, which I'll talk about a little bit later when we go through some of the wines. So fast forward, I came back to the family business in 2009. I'd been working at a few other wineries before that. I finished university in Adelaide, worked in the Barossa, went overseas and spent a bit of time in the US and worked in the Sonoma Valley over there, and then came back to Australia and fortunately joined the family business. This was at a time when we were growing. Dad needed a bit of extra help, and I brought some of that sort of scientific expertise to the business, whereas Dad had that 40 years of experience in the wine industry. So it was a good little combination to kickstart the business. Unfortunately, my dad got cancer and passed away in 2013, which was a huge shock for me and the family. We fortunately had 2 or 3 vintages working together, so he was able to pass a lot of that information that he'd built up over the years to me. And it was at a time where I was able to step up as a 26-year-old young gun winemaker and take over the family business and start making all the wines. The winemaking side of it wasn't the challenge. Running the business side of it was always a challenge for me. been quite young and green at that sort of thing. So here we are today. It's still open, and which is a huge credit to what's happened and being able to get through it all. So why don't we pour ourselves a glass and start the first wine. So the first wine we have tonight is Sauvignon Blanc. This is our P Series Sauvignon Blanc, 2019. So as I said before, we own all our own vineyards. So this wine here is a combination of two different vineyards, one here in Coonawarra and one in Rattenbully, which is a little bit further north. And those two vineyards provide different flavours for me as a winemaker to work with, and just allow me to express, the different seasonal variations and try and produce a pretty consistent wine. The Sauvignon Blanc is really popular for us here. This one being 2019, we like to keep it nice and fresh. So this was bottled about 8 months ago now. The 2020 has just finished fermentation. We're right in the middle of vintage here. All the whites are picked, and we're just looking to pick a few more reds before we finish this season. The 2019 Sauvignon Blanc is one variety that I really like. It's good to match with a lot of different foods and really a crowd pleaser. This particular wine's probably got some more tropical notes to it. So down here we don't get a super grassy Sauvignon Blanc. So a lot of people will compare Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, and that tends to be a little bit more passion fruit and that real grassy character, whereas this I like to describe as a little bit more tropical fruit. For me, the acid structure and the finish is really important in Sauvignon Blanc. So it's got to be fruity on the palate, but have a nice citrus acidity to it. So I hope you all got your little tasting kits okay. There is plenty of information in the tasting notes, and feel free to jump on the chats, which is down the bottom of your screen, and ask any questions, and I'll have a look as we go through, but we can certainly throw it open to the floor and answer some questions at the end as we get there.
Alrighty, thank you, Luke. So I don't know about you guys, but I enjoyed that. So we're going to just put up the poll and get you guys to take a bit of a rate. Oh, there we go. Okay, so you are now rating the Sauvignon Blanc. So go ahead. And we do have actually the five tasting areas, which is rate the appearance, the aroma, the body, the taste, and the finish. So go ahead and make some votes here, and we'll be able to see the results as they come through. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat here. Luke and I are monitoring it, and even if you have any notes or thoughts around the wine, we've got a level 5 on the appearance already. That's excellent.
Don't worry, I won't kick anyone out if we get any bad reviews. That's all part of winemaking and working out what people like. The whole beauty of having a tasting kit of 5 different wines is I hope there'll be at least one of the wines that you'll like tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that is what Wyflo is all about. It's not just about us or some website picking wines for you. It's about sending you the wines, letting you taste it, and you getting to pick what makes sense for you, because everybody has their own taste palette. I love sweet wines, but my mom, she can't even come near some of the wines that I drink. So everyone's different, and that's why we like to let people taste.
Yeah, it's interesting. This Sauvignon Blanc is one that this does have a little bit of sugar in it. I like to leave about 3 or 4 grams per litre of sugar in there, which is not a lot, but some people that do like sweetness will like this wine, and others that like a dry wine will also like it. And that's sort of the beauty of trying to make a balanced Sauvignon Blanc.
Well, I definitely like it. It must be that little bit of sugar in there. Did you all bring your, what do they call the things you tip the wine into, Luke?
A spittoon.
Yes. Did everyone bring their spittoons?
No one but the responsible people. I brought mine, but
I'm going to guess nobody else has theirs.
no.
So unprepared, everyone. Nope, I'm seeing a lot of shaking heads. Everyone's finishing theirs tonight. Okay, looks like we've gotten some good good results coming through. I'm seeing lots of 4s and 5s, Luke, so really good here. No 1s so far. Maybe they don't want to insult you.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the next little wine. The next in the lineup we have is the 2019 Estate Riesling.
Okay.
Okay, so the Estate Riesling. So this Riesling here is also a blend of Coonawarra and Rattenbury fruit. The Coonawarra component for this wine really adds a lovely acidity to it. One of our two focuses here at Patrick of Coonawarra are Riesling and Cabernet. I'm really passionate about Riesling. I love making Riesling and love drinking Riesling as well. My dad made a lot of Riesling in the Eden Valley in the Barossa, and had a lot of experience back in the 80s and 90s with experimenting with different types of Riesling and how to make it there. So there's a few sort of family secret recipes that he passed on to me, and something that I'm really passionate about. We do a young Riesling here, which is the 2019, but we also do an aged Riesling, and that just gives a whole new spectrum of flavours to the wine. But the young Riesling is all about being balanced. It's got some nice sort of apple crispness to it. Also a little bit more floral in style, so quite pronounced in the glass. Sort of that honeysuckle, lemon blossom, that sort of character. And then the palate has got that real nice appley acidity with some real sort of crisp finish to it. But again, a little bit of sugar in there just to make it nice and approachable as a young wine. And that's something that's really important. A lot of the time, Riesling, people will think, oh, Riesling as a variety is too sweet, or Riesling is really dry and acidic. And I like to think that this is sort of somewhere in between. So it's one that a lot of people really like. We've picked up a lot of awards with our Riesling. There isn't a lot of Riesling grown here in Coonawarra or Rattenbury, but there are a few producers here. We're still quite cool climate, really important to growing Riesling. Keeping that natural acidity and that real sort of crisp flavour with the cool climate is really important. So this wine's actually got a couple of gold medals on it. Your little bottles don't have any on them, unfortunately, but this one here does. So yeah, won a lot of awards with Riesling over the years, and it always gets rated really well. A fantastic food wine. I really like it with anything spicy, that sort of spicy Asian style, or any seafood, and even just fresh oysters and that sort of thing as well. So have a taste of that, and then we'll rate the next one and tell me what you think.
Okay, so we'll bring up the next one, the next poll, Riesling. So we have our Riesling poll in progress. Hoping you guys are all seeing this and it's not just us. So go ahead, have a taste. We have a question from Tim, Luke, that's just about the Riesling. Maybe you could address that while everyone is polling. What is it about the Riesling specifically and why you enjoy making it?
Oh, yeah, very good. So Riesling is quite a challenging variety to make. It's one that I'd sort of normally say is made in the vineyard. So you've got to have really good quality fruit, and it's a winemaking sort of very hands-off approach to it. So you're basically trying to capture that essence of the vineyard through the wine. So there's not a lot of tricky, difficult winemaking in there, but it's all about preserving those natural aromas and flavors. And there's nothing to hide behind as well. So if you have a year that's a little bit difficult, there's fruit that's quite sunburnt or it's been a really hot year, you can taste that in the wine really easily. And there's not a lot you can do to fix that as a winemaker. So for me, I love it because it is a real expression of the vineyard, nursing it through and being able to produce something that is consistent and also really enjoyable to drink. It's a wonderful challenge. The two styles of Riesling that we make here, the young style is made very differently to the one that we do age. The one that we age has a lot more acidity to it, and we actually put it in the cellar for about 4 to 5 years before we release it. So one that has some really different flavors to it, some honey, some toasty characters that come out. And if you've got Riesling at home sitting in the cupboard for 10, 15 years, I've had some wonderful Rieslings that are sort of 10, 15 years old. They just get this lovely oily complexity to them and really good with cheese.
Okay, so again, we're getting lots of 4s and 5s here. This is really good. I'm glad that you guys are enjoying it, or at least enjoying it enough not to hurt Luke's feelings.
That's okay. That's good. I like, Riesling's one that we do really well when people are there tasting it. It's really a wine to experience because there is a huge different spectrum of Rieslings out there. So every region has a different style and a different flavour spectrum. So really Riesling, to find one that you like is always really good.
Luke, with this 2019 Riesling, how long would you age this one for?
So this one I would drink early or late. So there's a bit of a roller coaster of aging that happens with Riesling. So you go about 1 to 2 years and you have that lovely sort of freshness, that floral element. But then after about 2 years, in about the 2 to 5 year window, it goes on a bit of a dip and you're losing a lot of that primary fruit flavour, and it hasn't quite developed the secondary characters yet, so it hasn't got that toastiness to it. So I like to drink them either really young, as fresh as you can, so in the year that it was made, basically. So this one's only about 10 months old now. We'll bring out the 2020 vintage in about July and keep that nice and fresh. So if you want to drink one in the next few years, I would do that, or else I'd put it down for 4 to 5 years and then try it again and see how an aged Riesling tastes. It is a bit of an acquired taste, I would say. So a lot of people use descriptors for aged Riesling like kerosene and lanolin and petroleum and those sort of things, which sounds a little bit off-putting, but it is really good when you see it in a wine.
Awesome, thank you. Maybe we'll move on to the next one in our list. Is it the rosé, I believe?
Yes. The next one. So this is our P series rosé. You probably can't quite see that; it's a bit bright. But so rosé is extremely popular at the moment, and we've actually been making rosé for a long time. We used to make it out of 100% Cabernet Sauvignon, which was a really dark style of rosé, and it had quite a bit of sweetness to it. In recent years, I've changed the style a lot, mainly due to a bit of demand from my mum and my wife to make a really nice dry style of rosé. And that's exactly what this is. So as you can see, the colour is sort of a nice sort of pink salmon colour. And the colour for rosé actually comes from red grapes. And so this wine here is a field blend. So we picked the red grapes, different varieties, and a little bit of white grape in there as well. And then we crush it all, keep it in the press for about 8 hours. And that during that time, it picks up a bit of colour and all the flavour that you see in the rosé. And then it's pressed out and basically treated like a white wine from then on. So you're picking up a little bit of colour that stays with the wine, but really you're looking at a white, light style of wine. And this one is dry, so perfect for that sort of summer day in the sun is where I like to drink rosé. So that's the perfect match. So on the nose of this one, I like to sort of see a bit of strawberries and cream. So that sort of lolly confectionery character, some berries and strawberry on there, strawberries and ice cream, that sort of thing. And then the palate has got a hint of that melon character. So a bit of tropical note to it, but some really like crisp acidity that finishes it off. So a cheese platter with a group of friends, not that you can have group of friends around at the moment. So a cheese platter in isolation is probably my best recommendation for this wine.
I think a lot of people do have cheese platters here, I see. So
that's good. They read the recommendations. That's the idea.
Yes, Lauren is showing hers off. Okay, so we've got the rosé poll up here, everyone. Luke, what kind of grape varietals are in this one? A question from Laura.
Yeah, so this one is a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and a little bit of Chardonnay. So there's more Cabernet and Merlot in this, but the Chardonnay gives it a little bit of sort of melon character. So we just throw that in there. And this is literally all from the same vineyard. So when we actually harvest it, we put the red grapes in with the white grapes and then crush it all together. So, which is not one of the more common ways to make rosé. Generally, when you make a rosé, you'll see a lot of Pinot rosés, Grenache rosé, that sort of thing. And what they do there is take the red grapes and basically press it straight away, so you're not getting any of the tannin that you're picking up from the red grapes, and you're getting that little bit of colour. But this way, I like to just experiment with the vineyard to show different spectrums of ripeness as well. So you've got Chardonnay, which is sort of a little bit more crisp and adds that crisp dry element. And then the Merlot, which is a bit more richness. And then the Cabernet, which is adding a bit of that sort of berry spice to it. So it's interesting.
Well, whatever you're doing, I certainly love it. Keep doing it.
Thank you. Yeah, so I've just made the rosé for 2020, so it's just finished fermenting, and it has this beautiful colour when you first pick it, and then that colour really just clears right up. So as the wine is quite young, the wine's all cloudy and it's still got a lot of sediment and yeast and things in there, and it just has this brilliant sort of red, crisp colour to it. And that really settles down and develops that nice off-white sort of salmon color that you're getting.
Excellent. So I think we've got the poll up here. Again, we are just getting lots of really great feedback on these. We got a couple of ones on this one, not many, but we got a couple of ones. Mostly, I have to say, on the. Oh, actually, I lied. There's no ones.
Oh.
Just kidding, guys. There's no ones. Sorry, Luke. There was a couple of 2s on the finish and taste.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, I think that dryness is probably the one that is polarizing for people.
Interesting. Okay. How's everyone doing? Everyone all good? Are we enjoying so far? Maybe throw up a plus thumbs up sign. I'm like 3 wines in and I forgot what the thumbs up sign was.
Cool.
All right. Well, looks like we got.
Technically, Cheryl, you're correct because +1 equals thumbs up in software development.
Yes. All right. I'll take it. Okay. Let's move on to our reds then. Reds are my favorite.
Yes. So the first red that we have here is a Shiraz Cabernet blend. So this is our P series Shiraz Cabernet. It is 2014. So one of the things that here, I'll pull myself a glass. One of the things that Patrick of Coonawarra is known for is a bit of delayed release. So when we started in 2004, we started putting down stock in 1998 before we actually opened and started selling wine. So we'd had a few years of wine built up in the cellar in barrels, just like this behind me. And we've been able to continue that right through to today. It's an incredibly expensive process. The accountants hate how much stock we have to sit on, but for our region and our wines, it really is something that sets us apart from other Coonawarra wineries and also probably most wineries around the country. So this is a 2014 wine, so it's got a nice little bit of age to it already, 6 years old. And the reason we do that is Coonawarra is very famous for Cabernet Sauvignon and quite cool climate here as well. So that brings a fairly big tannin structure to the wines, and that years in oak and then in bottle after that really softens the wine and starts to develop a lot of those secondary characters, which I really like to drink with that sort of you're moving from more of your berry spice and that sort of rich plum character through to a little bit more leathery complexity as it's getting older. So this one here is a Shiraz Cabernet blend. So it's 80% Shiraz and 20% Cabernet. And by blending the two varieties, we're getting some different flavors, but more so on the palate, you're blending Shiraz, which is a big, richer style, with Cabernet, which is a little bit more savoury. And Cabernet on its own is really quite savoury with a big sort of tannin finish. And adding the Shiraz in there as well really fleshes out the wine to make it really soft and approachable. So this one I like to say is a bit more of a crowd-pleasing sort of style of wine. It's spent about 24 months in oak, so older barrels like this. So these ones here with the red on them, this one's American oak, and the ones up the top there are French oak. And they give you a lot of different characters to the wine. So American oak gives a bit more sweetness and vanilla, and French oak is more spice and that sort of pencil shavings, chocolatey character as well. So on the nose, this one, there's a lot of berries up front. You're getting some sort of spice underneath that. The Shiraz that we grow here, I would say it's quite different to what you would get in, say, the Hunter Valley for those that are near Sydney, or that Victorian style that you get closer to Melbourne. If you're in Melbourne. Here, I think we get a nice mix of fruit and spice. So Barossa is known for sort of bigger, richer styles of Shiraz, and Victoria and the cooler climates are quite known for that sort of spicy white pepper. I think where we are here in Coonawarra is quite sort of in between. So you're getting some nice spice to the wine, but also a bit more mulberry fruit. Not so much the plum and those really concentrated fruits that you get in Barossa, but that sort of mulberry spice and a little bit more texture to the wine. On the palate, this one is quite round and soft, and that's the key, I think, with this sort of crowd-pleasing style of wine. It's something that's soft and approachable. It's got some nice fruitiness to it, but really that mouthfeel is full and rich without having a huge amount of tannin on the finish. So.
All right.
Hey, Luke, this has been our favorite so far.
Very good.
Excellent.
And this is from 2014 as well. So 2014 was a little bit cooler year here. So you're getting a bit more savoury element to the wine. It is relatively light, I'd say, for our style that we have here, but one that's going to age really well and bring out sort of that more spicy character if you like that.
So we've got our polls up now on this one. So far, all fives, 100% fives, guys.
Yeah, we're gonna buy a case of this, Luke.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, on that note, just so you know, the voucher code is in your email. So if you're ready to buy that case, just jump into your email and find that code. It'll say buy them here. I'll even show you how to do it at the end. You just click on the wine that you want to buy, add 12 of them to your case. You don't have to buy 12 of the same one. You can buy any of the 5 that we tasted here tonight. You just have to buy 12. And then you'll get that voucher code. You'll put that in at checkout, and you'll get the amount that you spent on the tasting back. So you basically get a free tasting.
So just a question here from Laura. With not so much tannin, how will it age? Will it age much longer? This one is made as probably a earlier drinking style, so I keep it maybe 4 to 5 years. I wouldn't put it down for a long time, just because it doesn't have that tannin structure to really help it age. It'll probably keep a lot of that fruit for probably the next 3 to 4 years, and then it'll start to change, and you'll see a lot more sort of brick red colour. And it will lose a little bit of that crispness, that acidity line to it as well.
Awesome. And I just made a note of that in the chat as well. So if anybody missed what Luke said, that's 4 to 5 years. And I just threw it in the chat there. We're getting lots of love for the Shiraz, Luke.
That's good.
Lots of love for the Shiraz.
Yeah, it's a style. I mean, this one is probably one of my go-tos on a weeknight. I have the luxury of having a pretty big winery of wines to choose from. I don't buy a lot of wine, actually. I think I do a lot of swaps and just acquire a lot of wine, which is always good. And so a midweek Shiraz like this is perfect for that.
And I have to say, I'm loving all the new friends that have joined. There seems to be lots of furry friends that have joined our wine tasting. I'm hoping they're getting something, a little treat for them as well. I like Paul's dog. He seems to be very, very interested in the wine. He's been kind of pawing at them all night. So I'm loving that you guys have brought your furry friends along.
Okay. Moving on to the next one, Cabernet Sauvignon. So this is our Estate Cabernet. So 2015 Estate Cabernet. We have 2 main vineyards in Coonawarra with Cabernet. So this one is a little bit further north, and then we have another one, which is our old block, called our home block, which is around the family home. So this one is from a vineyard called Skinner's Vineyard. We purchased the vineyard in 2011 off a lovely old couple that had been in Coonawarra a very long time and basically established a lot of the Coonawarra vineyards. So they have planted vineyards here about 80 years ago now. So this vineyard here was planted about 30 years ago, and I actually moved into the house. So this is around the house that I live in now. So I see it every day and spend a lot of time in the vineyard. It's quite different to what we have at our other vineyard here in Coonawarra. So Coonawarra is very famous for Terra Rossa soil. And for those that haven't heard of Terra Rossa soil, basically what it is, it's a very red clay soil, and it's only really shallow. So we have anywhere from 30 centimetres down to about 1.5 metres of this shallow clay red soil. And then underneath that is a limestone base. So it's a really hard limestone layer. The vines grow their roots, put their roots down into that clay loam soil at the top, but the roots don't really penetrate through the limestone And that means the vine's only feeding off that really shallow layer of topsoil. And for Cabernet Sauvignon, that's just perfect. Cabernet doesn't like being too vigorous. If you get vigorous, big canopy of Cabernet vines, it really shades the fruit and you're getting some sort of green capsicum flavors. Whereas being on terra rossa soil, the vines don't have enough nutrient to really grow as much as they want. So they put out shorter shoots and the vines are quite balanced the way that they are. That limestone layer underneath is also very free draining. So any rain that we have just basically runs straight through that soil. So that's really good for the vines. They get enough water for to them to put into their fruit, but without growing too much. So it's only a very narrow strip of soil in Coonawarra that has this terra rossa soil. So it's about 20 kilometres long, and it's almost a cigar shape, 2 kilometres wide and 20 kilometres along. It runs straight down the highway in Coonawarra. For those that have been here, Coonawarra is a great region to visit. You've got all the wineries, 25 wineries, sort of left or right off the one highway. So we're literally, where I'm sitting now, we've got Hollick across the road, which is about 1 kilometre. Got Parker next door. You've got Catlook down this side. So we're all right within walking distance. So it's a pretty good region to visit. And this thin strip then changes on the edges to being a deeper soil on one side and then quite a sandy soil on the other. And the reason that Coonawarra came to be is because the highway was the old horse and cart track. So the left of the highway as you're heading north, so the east of the highway is quite sandy, and the horse and cart would get bogged in the sand in the summertime. And then in the wintertime, on the western side, it was really boggy and muddy, so they'd get bogged on that side as well. So the highway ended up, or the horse and cart road ended up being straight down the highway. And then people started to plant fruit trees on this red soil and worked out that they grew really good apples. So Coonawarra was actually established as a fruit colony here, which then later became vineyards, and then was initially set up with a lot of Shiraz for fortified wines and ports. And then the styles changed to Cabernet Sauvignon. And from about the 60s onwards, Cabernet Sauvignon dominated Coonawarra. This Cabernet here is 2015, which is a really good year here. We had quite a warm year in 15, which gives you a lot more sort of fruit richness to it, and quite bigger berries. So the difference between a bigger berry and the smaller berry is basically the ratio of skins to juice. So when you've got bigger berries, you've got sort of richer flavours and softer tannins. And in the really cooler years, which tend like this one is 2020, we get to small berries, which has sort of quite big sort of concentrated tannic wine, so more tannin structure to them. This wine here is wonderfully balanced. You're getting that sort of classic Coonawarra spice. So Coonawarra is known for this sort of mintiness, which some of you might be able to pick up on the wine. So it's sort of like a chopped mint character, I like to describe it as. So a little bit of chocolate coming from the oak. This has got a blend of American and French oak in it. So that chocolatey coming from the American oak, and then that mintiness being that sort of Coonawarra signature underneath.
You know, I have to say I'm not a big fan of chocolate mint ice cream, but I do like this wine, so we'll see.
Oh, interesting. So the palate on this one is Cabernet is obviously quite a big tannic structure, but being a little bit older, being 2015, so a lot of that tannin structure has softened and developed into quite a sort of complex wine. It has a really smooth finish to it, which is the key to Cabernet Sauvignon, sort of having that concentration, but then finishing nice and smooth and with plenty of length as well. This makes me pretty hungry to have like a big steak or a nice piece of lamb with. being about that time of night, of course. And one that you can age. I mean, Coonawarra is famous for aging Cabernet Sauvignon. I mean, I've been lucky enough to have some Cabernets from Coonawarra back to the sort of 50s and 60s, and you would think a wine wouldn't last quite that long, especially with the sort of hygiene and things people used to keep back then. But they have this sort of lovely leathery complexity to them when they're that age. They're quite light in structure, but the acidity really holds up. Being cool climate here, we're getting a nice balance of tannin and acidity, which are both the things that that help a wine age really well. So this one here I'd put down for 5 years plus comfortably. So I'm happy to put one in the cellar and bring it out in a few years if you can wait that long. So have a taste of that and let me know what you think.
We'll get the poll up for this one. There we go.
So question from Tim, how do we select the wines for today? So basically I just wanted to give you a bit of a showcase of what we do here. Sauvignon Blanc, Riesling is always in the mix when I do a tasting. Rosé is that sort of in between a red and the white, sort of a bit of a crowd pleasing wine. And then the two different reds, being a Shiraz base and a Cabernet base, is Shiraz is always that sort of nice softer style, and then Cabernet is quite sort of complex with that tannin structure to them. So I wanted to find some wines that everyone will like. So I hope you can sort of go through all of them. If you're a white drinker, you like the whites. If you're a red drinker, you'll be leaning towards the Shiraz and Cabernet spectrum. But it's good to see that so far everyone's been enjoying all of them. So I'm hoping it was a good choice.
Yeah, we still haven't seen a one come up.
No. I just got to say too, Luke, you know, we did that walk up and down the 10-kilometer strip and visited every winery, and it was blissful. I think our livers have been the same ever since.
I mean, one of the benefits of coming to Coonawarra, we're not a hugely tourist hotspot down here, so you're getting a lot of sort of one-on-one attention from the winemakers most of the time. But even in Celador, you're just seeing people, and they are so passionate about it. A lot of people here live and breathe the wine industry, and it's certainly always great to visit when people have that passion for the industry.
Yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, you know, we've been to pretty much every wine region in Australia, and I really reckon that trip to Coonawarra, Coonawarra was our best. So awesome.
Oh, that's good. That's a good, getting to every wine region is always
a good endorsement.
Yeah.
We'll be back for sure.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, if anyone is coming once all the borders open again, feel free to come down to Coonawarra and just call into Celador and ask for me, and I'll be probably sitting in my back office, which is just on that side, plugging away on the computer.
Look at that personal invitation to all of you from Luke to join him at his winery once we are allowed out of our homes. So we have another question here. Luke, do you have any dessert wines?
I do actually, yeah. We do a Botrytis Riesling, so another style of Riesling that that is really interesting. So that one actually is quite a sweet wine, so huge amount of sugar in it, and sort of that nice balance of acid, sugar, and alcohol. That one is concentrated on the vines with the Botrytis, which is actually a mold that feeds on the berries and dehydrates them, and then makes them really concentrated, and you're getting some sort of lovely apricot flavors to it. So yeah, if you come down here, we only really sell that one from Celador, so you'll have to come here and taste it. Perfect to finish off the night.
And do you introduce the Botrytis?
No, that was very natural. So that only occurs when we have like one big rainfall event, and then it's dry after that. So we need a huge rain event, and then no rain after that. If there's rain after that, the vines tend to grow a lot of molds that we don't like. But the botrytis mold is like exactly the same as if you keep your strawberries in the fridge too long. So that white sort of fluffy grey mold, it's not actually harmful to you. You can eat your strawberries even with that mold on them, but it basically feeds off the water in the berries, and is another way of concentrating it, which is good for making dessert wine.
Well, today I learned something new, that you can eat strawberries with a bit of mold on them.
Yep. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can.
A lot of people are asking for dessert wines, so maybe that's just for everyone's knowledge. It looks like Wyflo will be introducing dessert wines soon, so Luke, we'll have to take you up on that one.
Yeah, sure, certainly.
Okay, so I think that about wraps it up. Oh, we have one last question here from Chris. Chris was wondering, what is any funny stories that you have from visitors or your staff at the winery?
Funny cellar door stories. I think just off the top of my head, the funniest cellar door story that we had is we had we get the odd bucks and hens shows here. So when people are obviously getting married, they come on a bit of a wine tour. And one particular day, I don't know if anyone knows, but Panola, which is right next to Coonawarra, is the home of Mother Mary MacKillop, which is Australia's first saint. So we had a hen show in here one day. Obviously dressed up. There's quite a lot of fake penis straws and things like that. And coincidentally, we had a busload of nuns come in the same day for the Mary MacKillop canonisation. So we had the hen show on one side of the room and all these nuns dressed up on the other side of the room. It was quite a hilarious day.
Wow, that is a good story. I like that. Okay, so we don't have any other questions coming through. But of course, guys, if you do have any questions, you think about anything later, please feel free to reach out to the team here at Wyflo. We can always pass them on to Luke. Obviously, you can tell how much he loves the wine and loves his job. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the wine here tonight. I'm going to do one last thing. I'm going to just quickly share my screen and make sure that you guys know how to get to the wines that you want to buy from tonight. So just hopefully you guys can all see my screen. So you've got this email that you've got here. Down here, you've got your coupon code. Of course, mine says test code. I don't get any free wine out of this, unfortunately. So just click there, and it's going to load up this page with all the wines that we tried here tonight. So there's the 5 varieties: the Cab Sav, the Riesling, the Sauv Blanc, the Shiraz, and the Rosé. All you have to do is just click on the ones that you would like, add them to your cart. And once you've got at least 12 in there, then you will be able to check out. See, I've already got them loaded here because I know which ones I want. And you'll be able to check out and just add the coupon code that you've been given there. Now, we do have one last poll here for tonight. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. Again, if you guys have any questions, just reach out to us. We hope that you loved the wine here tonight. And we do have one last question. Laura and Chris seem really intent on finding out if you have a sparkling. So let's just quickly address that one.
Yes, I do actually. I do a sparkling Chardonnay Pinot. I haven't quite worked out how to get sparkling wine into those little bottles because obviously you'll lose all of the fizz, but certainly on the cards one day to make some sort of smaller sparkling bottles, and certainly come down to Coonawarra and have a taste, and we can show you the whole range.
Awesome. We'll figure out how to get the sparkling into the mini bottles at some point.
Yeah.
All right, so we have one last
talk to Peterson House. They do mini bottles of sparkling.
Oh yes.
Up in the Hunter Valley.
Oh, very good.
So they do 3 of their varietals in mini bottles. So
Yeah.
they're like, so you'd probably have to do, instead of the half bottle, they'd basically probably do 2 bottles instead of the half bottle.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I'll certainly have a look. That sounds good.
Yes, excellent. Okay, so